I'll start that recording to be able to share in that way. But welcome to our first community volunteer fair, if you will, or our virtual town meeting. We're trying to make it accessible for you to be able to find out about opportunities in our valley. The Volunteer Corps really sparked and really came alive with a partnership with Providence, with County Health, and the idea that was centered around assisting in this time of need around COVID. Well, as you remember, a year before that, there was a big need for volunteers as well with the floods, and emergency management and county and everybody was poured into this, but we didn't do a good job of facilitating the volunteers. And so we want to do better, and that's where the Volunteer Corps idea came from. That's where you've been getting emails from me and from others in that way. And so we're excited to be able to tell you that we've reached over 20,000 man hours, volunteer hours on the efforts of vaccinating since February 18. So this is a big deal. This is just a few months in. This isn't even a full year, and just excited to be able to celebrate that. And the reason for this meeting was there was some needs, and there's some continued efforts that are needed coming forward. So I'm going to hand that over to Walla Walla County Department of Community Health. They've been doing such a good job. So Dr. Kaminsky, if you want to share with us why are we meeting today?
Sure. Well, this group of people did some amazing things, and the entire Volunteer Corps was over 4,000 people, and so 7% of the county volunteered for the big vaccination effort, and we did over 62,000 shots together, and we really came out sprinting. And whenever there was a need, the Volunteer Corps always came through for us. And I know people have been itching to get back in the ring and continue the fight. And part of the reason for this meeting is to let you know that we have not forgotten about you and that we appreciate you and we need you. But just to tell you the story, we ended our mass vaccination clinics at the fairgrounds on May 16 because the demand was just diminishing. And that model at the fairgrounds was very labor intensive. But as demand decreased, we had to move to a smaller footprint. So we moved to the Southgate footprint. And then over time, May, June, July, we had some attrition and exhaustion within our ranks. And so we worked on getting some contracted teams through the Department of Health to do a lot of the legwork. And even though we always knew we could rely on you, it still took significant management from our side to run those clinics. And so just due to lack of staffing within our ranks, we had to kind of change to a different model. Likewise, we sent out a all call for a testing center at Southgate, and we called that off, for one, because we weren't prepared quite yet, and secondly, we found a contract team that can run that. So we're trying to find these plug and play opportunities just so it's less labor intensive on us. But moving forward, and I think this presentation will talk about it, moving forward, we still need you. We want you, and we love working with you. And this part of this whole deal is about community building. And so we just want to get the band back together. How about that? So thank you so much for being here, and I'll let the show continue.
Thanks, Dr. Kaminsky. And I saw Nikki. Oh, there's Nikki. I know Nikki was having some connection issues.
Yes, some technical difficulties today.
But we got you.
I made it, so that's great. Can everyone hear me okay? I hope so.
Yes.
I'm going to see me here too. Perfect. All right. So what we are doing right now. So currently out at Southgate, Tuesday through Saturday, we are out at Providence doing our regular cadence. We're open from 9 to 5, trying to make sure that we're available to get vaccinations to individuals who need it. Right now, there's a lot of people with the vaccine mandate that are trying to get their all of their vaccinations caught up so that they're able to continue working with, and some people are not, which is part of what we're seeing. But we're also doing third doses for immune compromised. So that currently is with our Department of Health and Aristo team that's helping us. That's been a huge help. We're doing mobile vaccinations as well, depending on what the need and demand is. Tomorrow we have a big clinic that we're going to be doing, hopefully about 250 individuals who will help get them either finished or completed with their vaccination process out at our First Fruits partners. And then next week is kind of a light week for us as we work on ramping things up. In addition, we are still working through, as when we first started doing vaccination, there was a need for people who were homebound, who couldn't come into the building, couldn't come to Southgate, couldn't come to even our mass vaccination clinics, and they needed a place to, they needed us to be able to go out to them. And so some of our team has been doing homebound vaccinations, and we've also utilized our partners with Aristo to also help get to those individuals who were needing help. So that's what we're doing right now, but we see the need for the band to get back together, like Dr. K said. So we're starting to see a few things on the horizon. I think you can kind of go to the next slide. Yeah. So as we work towards ramping up, moving forward, we're finishing and ramping up September, but we anticipated and we anticipate approval for individuals 65 and older and high-risk workers to start being approved to do additional, get an additional shot with Pfizer. Currently is the current plan, but it may be additional ones eventually. But we anticipate towards the end of this month having that happen. In October, by like they're saying, again, they is a big number, is a big broad they, but we're looking at potentially the news and everyone else saying that in October by Halloween, the youth being able to be vaccinated who are ages 5 to 11. And that is a pretty significant group of people. We want to, we don't know exactly if they're going to all go to Southgate, or if they, but we will also be going to schools, and we'll be working with our pediatric partners as well. So making sure that we are having a strategic plan to ensure that there's options for parents and families to get their young people vaccinated in a manner that makes the most sense for them. And also just following all of the guidelines to ensure that parents are approving it in the way that they want to get it done. So we're anticipating that happening in October. And then we will see a pretty significant ramp up of our looking at how we did allocation wise. As those approvals come through, we start to see it being really busy in the next 3 months. So November, December, and then even into January, we will be pretty busy with these boosters needed, and then those second doses for our youth. So we will need a lot of help, and that could mean us, and Walla Walla is not just Walla Walla, or College Place, it's all of our entire county. So some of those smaller clinics might happen. Last year, we went to all the schools that requested us, and we went, and we will continue to offer to go to all those locations to ensure that we give opportunity for vaccination at their school, if that's what the school wants, and parents and families. So, yeah, so we definitely have next 4 months a need for help, and we want to be able to make sure that we ask ahead of time and try to prepare you in advance for the need for that flexibility, because we may not, we don't know what the weather's going to be like. I was just sitting in a conversation about testing, and we anticipate some, this could be a really hard winter, and it could be really, the weather could be difficult. We may want to be really, we need to be able to plan for all of those things. So we are working with our school partners so that October we will have an idea where and when we can do these vaccinations, and based on when there's opportunity to have parents present whenever possible, or make sure we've had enough time to ensure that parents have enough time to get their documentation ready to go.
Nikki, do you mind if I add something?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so in talking about and thinking about this, we actually had an earlier call here in the department, and we're talking about that with new information, or when we're anticipating information, which I think we all maybe are tired of over this last year and a half, it can cause a lot of like anxiety, a lot of feelings. It's hard when information's coming from so many different sources and you're tired. So I think another great thing that's always been wonderful with the Walla Walla Volunteer Corps is all the help in sharing information and talking to each other, and reminding each other, you know, that we are in this together, and that we're a community, and it's a community effort. So I think in addition to some opportunities to volunteer and support some of the ongoing current like mobile efforts and that sort of thing, as well as this increased need, there still is absolutely a need to help with building and holding together that sense of community.
Thank you, Sam. And I do think that's one of the things that stood out to me over the last year, is there is a lot of people who wanted to feel like we're in this together, and that we're united against COVID-19 and how it has impacted our community. And so we want to do the best we can for all of you, and we want to continue to try to do better. And so we really do appreciate each of you who have taken the time to consistently show up and be interested in helping volunteer. And we want to do this more often so that you have an option to kind of look ahead at the forecast, right? So what we know is a lot of unknowns, but we also have a pretty good general idea. Once things start, we'll probably see a pretty consistent need. And so we want to make sure that we have your help. And if you know people who are interested in helping, that you get them to go through the website to sign up to volunteer. And we want to get your feedback on how we can do this better. We know it's hard when you maybe sign up for a volunteer opportunity, and maybe it ends up, you think you're going to do that, and then you would have maybe had other times or other plans, and you set aside time to be helpful. And so we want to be better about that communication as well. We would not be able to do this. Yeah, sorry, go.
Oh, no, maybe this would be a good time to interject. We have one of the projects that we're working on to be able to celebrate our volunteers, but also to really celebrate how we've been stronger together. That seems to be the theme that we've been talking about here, is the Inside Out project, which many of you should have gotten an email about. I'll put the link in the chat here as well. But if you go to insideoutproject.net, you can hit explore and search Walla Walla, and you'll see that our action has been approved. You'll see a bunch of actions. They're in 138 countries, but our action was just recently approved, and we're gathering the releases, and we're hoping that in October we can plaster a building downtown with your faces to celebrate how we are stronger. So anyhow, that's just an exciting piece that we're working on right now, to be able to get that not only acknowledgement, but to get people excited about being part of something bigger than they are, and part of the solution. And so you guys have been making a huge impact here. I can't imagine without the work that has been done where we would be. So I think that we're at a really great place because of all the love and all the time that you've spent at these different places. So thank you.
And Nathan, thank you for your question. I think Dr. Kaminsky answered it in the chat, and if we're monitoring the chat, so if you have questions, we want to be able to answer questions if you have them. This is being recorded, so it might be really helpful that the questions you have might help someone else. So don't hesitate to ask any questions.
I don't know if the chat show up in the recording, so maybe ask the question and answer it that way.
Yeah, perfect. So Nathan, you asked a question about testing out at Southgate, and whether or not it would be a combination of Aristo and volunteers. The answer is, Dr. Kaminsky said that we are going to be utilizing the University of Washington lab to help us out at Southgate, and that will help us utilize our Aristo and DOH partners in a way that is thoughtful. And this testing, they have a really tried and true model, and they're very excited to be able to do that testing piece. And we know that vaccination is not the only way out to help address the need of COVID in Walla Walla. Testing is another piece of this. And so we're glad to be able to have a team of people who are willing and able and have the resources to be able to keep testing going and running in Walla Walla.
A question here about updates on flu vaccinations. All I know about is October 2nd, so coming up pretty quickly. There is a drive-through influenza flu vaccination. Is that correct? And I believe we still need a couple more volunteers for vaccinations, and then we still have about 15 slots for parking, for transit, not parking, but for transportation to kind of wave people through. And so other than that, though, I think the interpreters and all the other pieces have been filled. So
yeah.
But is there any other updates based on beyond October 2nd?
We don't have any current plans beyond October 2nd. That does not mean it won't happen. I know that this is a yearly annual thing we do on this time frame, but we'll probably we'll see. There will also be that day, there will be the vaccination clinic for COVID-19 will also be open at Southgate as well. So,
and maybe Nikki, remind us who is eligible to receive that influenza flu vaccine.
I think it's just that is the underinsured, and so it's underinsured or non-insured, and I think there's a couple other groups in that, but I know that was the main one when we talked about that with Jody. Yeah. So, but we want to
18 and up is kind of the idea.
Yeah.
And then a question about the website. It's really easy, volunteerww.com, and I'll put it in the chat as well.
And that part, that whole volunteer group is also so helpful because we've had the partnership with our emergency management partners and with Liz Jesse, etc. She's been super helpful with making sure we have all these background checks and all this extra crossing our T's and dotting our I's for our work. So we want to make sure we do the right thing. Any other questions? Does having this meeting help happen every couple of weeks? Would that be useful for everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Once we know more, obviously, that's great, and we'll try and send out more of an email, if it's necessary. But I think these updates will help people kind of be prepared for what to expect when you're expecting another vaccine clinic. And there are a ton of little nuances as those of you who have helped last year. Those same models will be probably in place. We're also looking to help partner with other individuals who will be doing, other community partners who will be doing vaccination. And so we want to work smarter, not harder if we can. So that also part of it is working better together. Thank you so much, everybody, for being on this. There was a comment that said, someone here saying maybe more frequent might be more helpful on the chat. What did it say here? More frequent emails for volunteer needs would be helpful. And Carrie, if you have other ideas on how much that looks like.
There's a question about partnering with Health Center for vaccinations.
I think that the health center has done the flu vaccinations as well. So we are interested in partnering, but also communicating who's doing what. And I think if someone already has a plan, we should probably also just promote their plans as well. So we'll always be interested in hearing from them too. So we'll reach out. On the October 2nd events, should volunteers be there early? It is never a bad idea to be early.
The time for traffic is 7 and the rest of the group is 7:30, but I believe that's early enough. Yeah, there'll be a few people there that'll be early, but I've not been part of it yet, so I'm excited to see what this is like.
Yeah, this is a new one for me as well. So I'm glad that we've been doing it for such a long time, but yeah, last year we did as much as we could, but I don't think we did as many as we did as much vaccination as we could have. So
Jody brings up a good question. She's asking, is there a way to notify longtime volunteers ahead of time because it's, they have the experience that we need and they would like to continue to be part of those roles. That was part of why we wanted to have this conversation. And I don't know, I guess we forgot to put that bullet point in, but there is an interest from Dr. Uminski and Nikki and Sam and I to see if we could kind of develop these team leaders, if you will, these group project specialists that would say, we have these needs, and we would send those out to those groups of people that would then help either have a team ready or help assemble a team. And this would be for remote or for going to schools or going to different areas. So I don't know, Nikki, if you want to describe that, if you want to add to that description, but I think it would be wise if you're interested in leading a team, or if you're interested in kind of being on the front lines of developing something like that. We do have an interest in communicating with you a little bit more so that we can help you find those ways to be more relevant, but also just because we trust you, we've worked with you, you've worked with us, and you know how it works. So I think it would be helpful to have that list started.
Yeah, so if you are interested, I think there is a if you're interested in taking on more of a leadership role, we are trying to like make this idea more of a reality, but also that in our idea, the idea would be that we could have enough team leaders, and then we would have kind of even that and those team leaders might have a core of their tried and true longtime volunteers, and then we can mobilize based on the need and that interest level of that team. There are some people who really liked going out to the schools. We want to be able to do that. We also have a need, and I think maybe I mentioned this briefly as well, but our long-term care facilities, the state helps do their initial vaccinations, and we know that there's a significant need there as well for us to get to them. So we are doing an assessment of all of the individuals, like all the different long-term cares, to see if they have a need or if they have a plan. And we will also be looking at that as another need. So the need for school, the need for long-term care, the need to assist possibly with our more of that mini mass vax clinic. And so again, kind of looking at broader themes and then trying to get some teams together and then mobilize in the next few months so we have a consistent like meeting time and a better communication and cadence for this. Communication helps everyone, and I think it makes everyone a lot happier when we work together. And you can ask more questions and give us feedback, because the only way we do it is we regularly hear about what to do better. Willing to fail forward a little bit as well. So I'd rather be willing to keep doing the things and keep getting it better. There was any other question? Yeah,
I'm willing to be that contact if you're interested in expanding your role or just kind of being interested in leading something like that. Reach out to me. I can help kind of create those lists and share them with Nikki and Sam and those that are going to be working with that. So
yeah,
and that's a great idea to send out an email with that. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm capturing the questions and ideas so we don't forget when we get to the planning stage. We carry a lot of things in our brain, so sometimes we forget. We're like, what exactly was the thing? So this is really helpful of your feedback and questions and ideas. So thank you, and thanks, David, for being willing to be that point person.
So when you think about if take some time, think about this. Those of you who are listening to this recording, the email, David, would you be willing to send out or spell out that email that
Sure. Yeah,
someone would email
Lopez@wallawalla.edu, or you could continue to use the volunteer@wallawalla.edu. Both of those come to me.
So what we're going to be doing next, there will be another meeting in 2 weeks, same time, same station. And we will send out a meeting reminder so that everyone can come to that and we can give an update on what we've done and also what we see, any changes coming ahead. So, and then we will also, yes, David.
I'll just say, I'll post this recording on the Volunteer Corps website, so you can send other folks that way if you think it's useful. So.
Yeah, I think I might add one more thing if that's okay.
Perfect.
So one thing that I think has always been helpful during this really interesting time, it's like when you're working on a puzzle and you're working on the puzzle for super long and you're like in it, and then somebody new that's not even looked at the puzzle comes over and then they see, oh, this is an obvious piece. So again, I think that's another really just helpful way that we can really lean back on all of you, is to come to this puzzle and show us, help us to see the obvious, where the obvious pieces go that we've just been hitting our heads against the coffee table because we can't figure it out. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Sam. I think you wrapped it up. So with that, we're I think it's 12:29, and we're gonna call it. And we look forward to connecting in a couple of weeks. And thank you again for your service and your willingness to help.
Thank you.
Whoa, that was a good yawn.
Sorry.
Well done.
Did
they hear my yawn?
You did. All right. See you guys in a couple weeks.